That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
Yo, what's up? Thank you for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in. Thanks to you for supporting the show. I'm Shane Raymer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. Once again, we're coming to you live from San Diego at the Innovations in Recovery Conference. Man, we got a bunch of podcasts we're doing, and we're putting them out shortly after. So look for those the rest of the day, today, tomorrow, and throughout the week. Well, I guess, what day is it already? It's Wednesday. I can't remember what day it is anymore, but what the hell? We're still doing the thing. Now, today we're going to be talking to Harry Nelson. Harry's the co-founder and managing partner of Nelson Hardiman, a healthcare and life sciences law firm based in LA. He's also the co-author of the 2017 book From ObamaCare to Trumpcare, Why You Should Care. For those of you who have listened to the show for a while, you may remember we had Harry on last year at the Innovations in Recovery Conference. This year he's got a new book out, The United States of Opioids, a prescription for liberating a nation in pain, published by ForbesBooks. We're going to talk to him today about the new book, what's going on. But before we do that, be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can connect with us on Instagram at RealThatSoberGuy and on Twitter at Shane Raymer. I mentioned Innovations in Recovery Conference. Some of you guys go, what the hell is that? It's about everything new in behavioral health care. So we're here to bring you some of the top experts and recovery advocates to help inform you on what's going on inside the recovery community, the recovery industry, as well as have some fun. So if you want some more information about any events Foundations puts on, you can go to foundationsevents.com. And then last, finding the right treatment option for addiction and mental health illness can be tough. That's why we've continued to partner with Foundations Recovery Network. They have high ethical standards. They stay true to their mission, and they also have a nationwide treatment facilities, both inpatient and outpatient. So if you or a loved one needs some help, you can go to foundationshelp.com/soberguy, or you can call 833-81-SOBER. That's 833-81-SOBER. You can talk with an admissions coordinator about treatment options. They can answer any questions for you. I promise you'll be well taken care of. Once again, that's 833-81-SOBER. Harry, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Great, Shane. Great to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you too, man. So back again, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes with us. We did the show last year, which was great. At that time, you had the book out, ObamaCare, Trumpcare, Why We Should Care. How did that go for you? What's changed since then?
The book was a great. It was a great platform to get out and try to get a message to calm people down. My biggest message is to get away from the politics. Our healthcare discussion in this country is so polarized, and people to say Obamacare is terrible, we have to get rid of it. People say it saved their lives, and the bottom line is we really need to find practical solutions.
Yeah.
And so the book was good. I got a lot of attention. It pulled me into conversations with a lot of high-level government people, and
Nice.
I'm happy. We're still thinking about doing an updated version on kind of where things are headed.
Do you find that that almost there's this divide strategy almost, so nothing ever gets done? It's just like going back and forth. I'm right, you're right, and then obviously there's agendas involved. What was your take on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I don't know if it's a strategy so much as a reality. It's the problem is, if you listen to the Democratic candidates for president, everyone's saying Medicare for all. You listen to the Republicans, the president was ready to, go take another whack at getting rid of the whole Affordable Care Act, rolling back Medicaid.
Yeah.
And I think the good news, I think for all of us, is that there's sort of a paralysis, right? And so it means that what we have in place isn't going away. But it also means that everybody's got to take accountability and be proactive in figuring out what you and people you care about need in terms of healthcare.
Yeah, I always have that thought too, like if we came together just as people and as Americans, or as just people in general, and we kind of put down some of the labels of left, right, whatever the hell it is, it'd be a lot easier to get things done, it seems like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we have a practical problem, and the problem is, I'm going to talk about this actually later today at the conference, is that we're really good as a country at investing in late-stage intervention in health problems, but if we're going to have good health care, we all need to be taking early, preventive steps and not waiting for it to get bad. And I think that the politics are not helpful.
Yeah,
we just think we need people to come together and have practical conversations about how we provide the different kinds of care that different people need.
Well, and so when you say that, that makes me automatically go to, well, there's not a lot of money involved in that. Is that a true statement or a fair statement?
You're onto a very important point. We have the most for-profit oriented healthcare system in the world, and that's just the way our system is built. But that's part of the reason is that it takes government, public investment into prevention and education, and we don't have that. So the burden falls on employers and on other resources, on big health systems and health plans to try and get a preventive message out there, and we're not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah. Would the quality go down if it was more of a free healthcare system? Would the quality go? I mean,
the problem is it's resource allocation, right? So where you get your healthcare makes a big difference to what kind of healthcare you get. So the challenge is that what happened with the Affordable Care Act was we opened up healthcare to a lot more people. But if you were in that Medicaid population of the poorest Americans, it was wonderful because you had no access to care, and now all of a sudden you had access to care. If you were in the middle, if you were in the working middle class with jobs that didn't provide health care, you're still kind of in a bad position. So the problem is that we have a lot of people who need care, and we need to find better care, but also lower priced care. We need to reduce the per patient cost, which comes back to this whole point of how do we get to preventive wellness? How do we rethink wellness? Part of my big agenda in the first book and in this book has been to try to get people to rethink wellness as being not just your weight and whether you smoke or drink or substance use, but also to think on a more profound level, even beyond physical health, exercise, sleep, nutrition, about social and emotional wellness, about financial wellness, getting rid of the anxiety and the stress that is leading to disease.
Yeah, so the book is called United States of Opioids, and there's a subtitle, I think, to that, isn't there?
A prescription for liberating a nation in pain.
So it says it lays out a roadmap for a way out of the. And a lot of people talk about. We saw the movie Heroin the first night here, which was really, really good, man. But the deadliest public health crisis in U.S. history. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So my agenda in writing this book, I was blessed to be pulled into conversation with the highest level policymakers in America, and I was it's funny, as a lawyer, I was like a kid in a candy store sitting around the table with all these high level people. But I walked away disturbed that we don't really have answers, coming out of our government. But the more I kept looking at the problem and trying to figure out what the answers were, part of the problem is that this problem is so big, right? It's not just opioids is the last 20 years, but we have 40 years in this country of an exponentially rising overdose death curve. We have 20 million people dealing with addictions, with substances, and then we have this huge population in pain. And the question is, what are we going to do? So my solution, my answer is, we've got to think of this as a grassroots problem, and we have to think of new settings of care and address it in the workplace, address it in schools and in our homes. And we need to empower people. We need to give people new language, new skills, new awareness to try to take this thing on, because our government is containing the number of overdose deaths with things like distributing naloxone, the overdose reversal drug, and more people are living because of buprenorphine and medication-assisted treatment, but those are not solutions. The real solutions, it may take a generation, but it has to start with everybody taking responsibility for engaging. Part of the problem underlying this is isolation and people being disconnected and being and not having the skills and the network to cope with what's going on around them, and turning very quickly to unfortunately to substance use. And so I think it starts with changing the way people think about this, and everybody taking on responsibility for being part of the solution.
When you're saying too, so really getting out in front of it and educating folks. So not even the first thing I think about is my kids. Like, how am I going to talk to my kids about this? They know I'm in recovery, right? They're 4 and 8, so they're on the younger end right now. But as my daughter especially gets older, I want to be open with her about this stuff. She's going to learn about it eventually, so I need to be talking to her and educating her and answering those questions so we can be part of that change.
So I have 2 messages. I think you're exactly right. So to me, the 2 things I say, two of the things I talk about in the book are, number 1, we need to normalize all of the stress and the underlying drivers, right? We've got to let our kids know that we that we struggle. I've had conversations with my kids about my daily insecurities, right?
Yeah,
I published this book, and I had in the back of my head this fear. I said, oh my God, no one is who cares about what I have to say? Do I really have anything to add to the conversation? So I tell my kids, normal. I make a point of, on a daily basis, telling my kids age-appropriate stories that let them know that it's normal. And I think we need to do that as parents. I think we need to do that in schools. Yeah. And the other piece is, I think we live in a society, I think a lot of what's going on is we are living in the most stressed out time I think our telephones, we're always on, we're getting blasted, and we need to develop mindfulness, and we need to develop a response flexibility so that we need to do it ourselves, and we need to teach our kids to do it, and so that they develop some resilience to all of the triggers, because we are a country of people who are just getting triggered and heading for a pill or a solution.
Well, I was going to say, it's like we want to numb out. So, and I think what you're saying is, the way I understand it is, we need to be open about it, talk about it, right? But we need to be okay with feeling. Like, it's normal to feel a little bit of anxiety. It's normal to feel stressed out. It's normal to feel like, oh shit, what if I fail? You know what I mean? Those types of things, no, we don't. And that's, I think you bring up a good point. It's like, you go to the doctor for some of this stuff, and I'm not knocking doctor, everything's different, individual cases for sure, but here's a pill. Just take this, you'll feel better because of that. And then what does that lead to? The next thing and the next thing, and then it's a snowball effect from there.
100%. So everything is happening on a continuum, right? There are people. I'm a person who deals with anxiety, and I manage it through prayer, through exercise, through connecting with friends. And there are going to be people who have to go, who are going to see a doctor, and are going to need medication. And
Absolutely.
I think we have to not judge where people are in the continuum. But the important thing for me is, when you look at what's driving people, particularly kids, to substance use, and I think it's not even kids, I think it's everybody, what's going on is there's some underlying issue, and then it's wrapped in shame, right? And the shame is what stops us from reaching out and talking to the people in our lives and saying, hey, this is what's going on with me. And if we could normalize it, if we could eradicate that shame, then we would be able to have conversations, and our kids would come to us and let us know what they're dealing with. Because I see so many stories where the parents tell me, 5 years after their kids have been through recovery, and they're still struggling with keeping it on the path, they're only then realizing that their kids were really self-medicating against something that the child couldn't even vocalize, because they were so convinced they were the only person in the world who was my friend said to me, my 13-year-old daughter said to me later, I felt completely worthless, and I was convinced I was the only person in my school who just had no value. And we have to be able to talk about those things and get a reality check on the stories that we're all telling ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's sad to think that a kid has to go through that and not have any resources or know that it's okay to talk about that kind of stuff. We did a podcast yesterday with my good buddy TJ Woodward, and we talked a lot about that. He talks a lot about toxic shame. That's one of the big things in his program, Conscious Recovery. But we also talked about, it's not so much about learning things, it's about unlearning things. So we need to unlearn some of this stuff.
Yes.
We're programmed as kids, to no fault of parents or whatever. It just happens. And it's like, man, I need to unwind some of this stuff and start to work it out, and not look at so much, man, I'm drinking, I'm using drugs. Well, like you said earlier, what's the underlying causes of that? And we're starting to have these open conversations. That's what's going to provide some relief.
100%. That to me is the most important thing, and our government isn't doing it, so we've got to do it.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think it's too big. I think it's too big of a problem, and I think politicians have a hard time because they can't say things that are going to be too unpopular, or they won't get reelected. And
I know, I hate that.
But I think the message. One of the things that's come out in the government response is we've identified that kids in middle school are at risk. But since I wrote the book, I've had people coming to me, and I've had clinicians blow my mind with what I'm about to share with you, which is that anxiety, severe pediatric anxiety, is starting to show up at age 4 and 5. And it's often being confused with autism spectrum disorder. And so, parents need to be thinking about this, not waiting till their kids are in middle school or high school. This is literally showing up in preschools and in early elementary. And when your kid is for example, this was a provider who said to me, we're seeing kids, girls, boys who are going to the bathroom. They're asking to go to the bathroom 20 times in a 3-4 hour period. that's not only a biological issue. That's an anxiety issue.
Yeah.
And it says something about that parents need to be paying attention to. And this is, so I really think this is critical work that can make a huge difference in our kids' lives.
And so you think that in getting out in front of that can help prevent later on, say middle school, high school, and turning. I mean, obviously you're still going to have the social issues, peer pressure, that kind of stuff. That's common. But
I'm 51 years old. I still deal on a daily basis with anxiety. Yeah. But the point is, you have to be checked in enough. You have to have enough people who give you a reality check and enough of a wellness program, which is going to be different for every person, that keeps you together so that you know when you need to reach out, when you need to get support from somebody else or from a treatment provider, right? And I think that is we have to really rethink it as a lifelong challenge.
Why do you think that from a government standpoint they don't promote more a health and wellness, more of a holistic way of living? There's a lot of information that supports that. There's people that use it daily, like yourself. I do myself. I have a lot of friends and stuff too. But it seems like that from that perspective is kind of squashed.
So I think our system, part of what ObamaCare to Trumpcare was about for me was kind of unpacking how our health system developed. And the reality is, we only have a government healthcare system for 50 years. Before that, it was really religious organizations. It was employers. And so, our system got built out with as providing late stage care, and we didn't have that same social support network. I think part of it is the American, America is a place of freedom, individual freedom, and we've been much more hesitant to put down guidelines and education and preventive programs. And the other thing I think is, there's an expression, I think it comes from Maslow. He says, if you walk around with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Yeah. So when you have a system that's got lots of people who are good at solving the problem when it's gotten really bad, then you don't invest in the early, at-risk work where that's not how you make your living, right? I've gotten really into the work of Dr. John Sarno. I talk about in the book. He was an Arizona doctor who he really promoted mind-body connection and started saying that pain, a lot of pain, headaches, stomach pain, back pain, was a reflection of people suppressing their stress and their rage. And not being able to express it in the world. And the medical establishment, the spine surgeons and the doctors, the pain medicine community said he was crazy. It's only after his death that we're getting studies that prove out everything he said. There's very much how you think is how you feel, for both for good and for bad.
Someone should bring that man flowers and say, you were right. Here you go, man. Yeah, but that's... How big is meditation and prayer for you in your own?
Oh, it's huge. I pray 3 times a day, and it's a huge thing. I've tried to pull people around me into it. In my office, we have a prayer service at
good for you, man.
2
That's
o'clock
really
every day.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I know for my wife and I and my kids, I mean, that's one of my 4-year-old, he prays. It's so awesome. We'll sit down at the dinner table, and if we're in, maybe we're hurrying trying to get to soccer, he's always the one that oh no, we need to pray, Mom, Dad. And his prayers are funny too. So I always want him to pray because they're kind of funny, but it's just such a good thing, and it's a family bond too that we have in 100%. That. And there's something about it where I can let go of all the stuff of the day, and I can give it up, and that let go, it literally feels like a weight off your shoulders.
Well, it's a huge thing. That's why I started doing it also not only in the morning and the evening, but in the middle of the day. And what I noticed is, it's even if in a day where it's hard to really focus, it forces you to stop. And it gives you a little rest and recovery and a moment for whatever your beliefs are, for gratitude, right? For being alive in this moment.
Absolutely. The gratitude thing is the best. I try to wake up and go, all right, I'm alive today. Let's just start there. You know what I mean? It's such a good thing. So where can folks find the book? Anything else about the book you wanted to mention? Or?
No, I'm excited. It's been out 3. This is actually, today is the beginning of week 4 of its release. Man. It sold 5,000 hardcover copies. So the word's getting out there. I'm really grateful for everybody who's been part of it.
I love the cover too, man.
Thank you.
It's so great. Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's on other places too, but that's been where that seems to be where everybody buys books these days. The audio book is coming out in about a week. So
nice. Did you do the audio for it?
I recorded the audio.
Good for you, man. I always like when authors do their own audio. There's something about it that is just makes it a little bit more intimate.
It's funny, I have friends who are actors who have great voices, and I'm like, it sounds so good if you did it. But and it was a long time. It's a serious. It was 14, 15 hours of recording time.
Yeah, it's a lot
to record to get to a 2.5 hour book. But it was a great experience, and I'm excited. I'm excited to share it. I think it's I hope it's one more piece of the puzzle of getting to a solution in this thing.
Yeah. Thanks for your work, man. Appreciate it, and thank you for spending a little time with us today.
No, I'm honored to be on. I love the show, and it's great to be with you.
Right on. Thank you, man. Check us out at thatsoberguy.com. Also, you connect with us on Instagram at @realthatsoberguy, at Shane Raymer on Twitter. Thanks for tuning in today. We're at Innovations in Recovery in San Diego. Love you guys. Thanks for all the support. Peace, love, and respect. And keep it real
keep my head on straight. I've been trying to keep my head on straight. You still say that I don't know anything about you. Oh, I don't know anything about you, but I know what you do in the back room. And you still say that I don't know anything about you. Oh, I don't know anything about you, but I know what you do in the back room.